So welcome to tonight's meeting of Community and Culture Committee. I declare the meeting open at 6:02 p.m.
No.
6:33.
6:33. Oh yeah, 6:33. No. I would like to acknowledge the Bidigo people of the Eora Nation, who are the traditional custodians of all lands, waters, and sky in the Georges River area. I pay my respect to elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who live, work, and meet on these lands. So for tonight, are there any apology for tonight's community meeting? No? Okay, can I go for vote for from, it's okay. Okay,
No.
if I'm going, no one.
No, you just said there were no.
Are there any requests to attend
No.
tonight's
Good.
meeting? Oh, good, okay. Staff and public are reminded that this meeting being recorded for minute-taking purposes and is also being broadcast live to the public on Council's website in accordance with Section 5 of Council's Code of Meeting Practice. The recording will be made available for Council's website. The order of business is as shown in the agenda, which has been made available. Staff and public are reminded that this meeting is open. Doors to the meeting room are to be left open unless the meeting moves into closed, that means confidential session, according to Section 15 of the Code of Meeting Practice. Only if the meeting moves into a closed confidential session will the public broadcasting of the meeting be suspended. Council's Code of Meeting Practice prohibits the electronic recording of meetings without the express permission of Council. Mobile phones must be turned to silent during the meeting. Do any councillors have any interest to declare for tonight's meeting? No? Okay. And I've been told there are a number of speakers registered for tonight's meeting. There will be three, yes. I will remind the speakers that speakers have a 3-minute time limit. The first sound you hear indicates that you have 30 seconds remaining. At the second sound, please conclude your comments. So we move to the public speakers. Right. Yeah. So the first speaker will be Sukana Aritrot.
Yes.
So,
Written submission.
so Council's officer will read out the submissions. Thank you.
This is my response in regards to the proposal to cut down library hours for South Hurstville and Oakley branch libraries. The proposal would result in the opening hours being cut by 11 hours per week. That is a whopping 33%. Means there will be no after-school opening hours at all for 3 days a week at these branches. This is not acceptable as kids need libraries too. How are we going to promote learning and love of books when the libraries are closed? And what guarantees do we have that you are not going to do the same to other libraries? I don't understand the reasoning behind this measure. Please keep the community's best interest in mind. Closing down libraries is against our best interest. Thank you.
Second speaker will be speaking on the same item. Summarize the library opening hours, COM 045-22. There is another, this one is also a written submission by Barbara Arambizis and will be read out by our council officer. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Mayor Catras, councillors and staff, I am a qualified teacher librarian at one of our local Georges River high schools, and as such I have insight into libraries and various serious concerns about South Hurstville Library branch, limiting its hours and, as I predict, potentially being on the road to closure in the future. South Hurstville and Oakley Library should maintain their current hours, and some of my reasons for this are outlined below. Our students need a safe place to visit after school. Many young people do not have the ability to study at home, nor do they have quiet space or even internet access. The library is their place for this. Adults also need a place to learn. Much of my own postgrad course was completed at the South Hurstville branch, away from the disruptions of family life and with unlimited access to the information I need. Small satellite libraries offer a vital and far-reaching support to our local community. We can't all travel to Kogarah or Hurstville to access the space and services, and at times space at these large libraries is difficult to find, especially after school hours. Libraries are no longer just about books. They offer an extensive collection, extensive services and endless opportunities for leisure and learning, as well as vital access to technology and information for people of all ages. Libraries are one of the last places in our community where people can obtain support without judgment and for free. Cutting library hours at Oakley and South Hurstville, based on data that is not representative of the whole community, is detrimental to the literacy levels and learning of people in our local community. It is also detrimental to the well-being of our people, as closures will impact many people who rely on them. Our libraries are essential pieces of social infrastructure that support education, well-being and quality of life for our Georges River community. Instead of reducing hours, I suggest council increases programming and funding for our existing libraries.
So the third speaker is going to speak on the same item, COM 045-22 by Karina
Thank you.
McDougall.
McDougall.
Yeah.
These are my children. Adam is in year 2, but is reading at year 5 level. Ashley enjoys books by Aunt Doe and also reading about dogs. They both absolutely love our local library at South Hurstville, which I'll call SH, and we visit there often. There are so many like Adam and Ashley. Libraries welcome people from all walks of life. Council's strategy and the business paper states that community feedback is clear that we value our libraries and need them to be close by and open longer, particularly at hours which will allow morning access for babies and toddlers, after school access for students, and weekend access which works around sports commitments. So what is most important is easy and convenient access. That smaller branches offer less range does not matter, because all items can easily be reserved and transferred between libraries. Indeed, 88% of users said they were happy or very happy with the services at SH Library. But access to both SH and Oakley branches is already difficult because council previously cut opening hours for all branches when the libraries were reopened after lockdowns. This was done under the cover of COVID and without any explanation or community consultation. As a result of these COVID cuts, opening hours for both SH and Oakley were cut by 10 hours per week, from 43 hours per week to 33 hours, equivalent to a massive 23% reduction for both. And now council is proposing to cut them by a further 11 hours per week, equivalent to a whopping 33%. Penshurst Library also lost an incredible 17 hours per week due to the COVID cuts. This proposal merely seeks to put back to Penshurst what it shouldn't have lost by taking even more by SH and Oakley branches. These cuts would mean no after-school opening hours at all for 3 days a week and no morning access 2 days a week at SH and Oakley branches. If this happens, then council will deprive the suburbs of and surrounding South Hurstville and Oakley with no practical access to their local libraries. This impacts particularly children like mine, who are the library's core users. To travel to Kogarah, Hurstville or Penshurst is practically difficult, inconvenient and unmanageable for almost every person in our community. This proposal is also inconsistent with other LGAs. Compared to Sutherland, Inner West, Bayside and Canterbury Bankstown, our area has the lowest number of public libraries, and all other councils provide much longer opening hours, with smaller branches open between 40 to 50 hours per week. Currently, our 5 branches are strategically located to offer convenient access to all residents spread across the LGA. Council's clear focus is to sacrifice SH and Oakley in order to add an extra library at Mortdale. However, addition of a new library in one part of the LGA must not come at the cost of depriving access to so many others. I submit that council should establish a library steering committee to consider and investigate other options, including extending the size of the existing Penshurst branch, which is already located in an ideal position to service the western part of the LGA and has parking and easy access by public transport, and as well as being located near a large park. And also developing the existing site at SH and Oakley with a strict condition that new libraries must be included with construction on those sites and include more parking. So there is great scope for council to explore these options and retain our branch libraries in the locations where they need to be as they are currently, and to service the whole LGA in a financially advantageous way. For now, council must move to reinstate the opening hours in place prior to COVID cuts in order to service the community, and also defeat this proposal, which is inconsistent with community feedback and our interests. Thank you.
Karina. Now go to the COM 044-22, confirmation of the minutes of the previous committee and cultural committee meeting held on 10th of October 2022. Can I call for a mover for that? Yes. Councillor Stratikopoulos. Can I have a seconder? Seconder is Councillor Elmer. So all in favor, say aye. Carried. Thank you. Now we're going to a committee report. We have two items for tonight's meeting. The first one will be COM 045-22, harmonize the library opening hours. Can I have our council's manager to speak on it and give us some brief introduction? Thank you, Tim.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair, I'd like to present the report. So this report proposes a change or harmonisation of library opening hours. The proposal is one of the actions identified in the current library strategy endorsed by Council in May 2020. The proposal considers utilisation data and community feedback, including public consultation with 634 participants, collected over a 15-month period from February 2021 to May 2022. A comparison of opening hours of libraries in neighbouring LGAs was also used to develop this proposal. The proposal provides a harmonised span of hours to suit the district Tier 1 libraries at Hurstville and Kogarah, and a harmonised span of hours to suit the branch or Tier 2 libraries at Oatley, South Hurstville and Penshurst. The report we are presenting to you today summarises the data and analysis that was used to develop the proposed hours. It outlines what we are proposing and how it relates to the library strategy and community preferences. The proposal also highlights for you the risk implications, financial and other risk implications associated with what we are presenting.
Can I call for mover for this?
I'd like to actually move an amendment to the recommendation, if that's okay. I'd like to defer this item to the full council meeting for discussion. If I can get a second, I'll speak to. I'll second. We've heard from 3 people tonight. We've 2 people submitted in writing. I think one of them sent us an email with their views on reducing the hours, and we heard from our speaker, Ms McDougall, tonight, who spoke very passionately about the value of the branch libraries to the community. I don't think it will come as a great surprise to many people that I've always advocated that they be restored to their original pre-COVID hours. I think that we need to do that. I think there's a very strong case for, if we're talking about harmonising, then the 3 branch libraries are the ones that are losing out, and particularly, not so much Penshurst, but particularly Oatley and South Hurstville are losing out by the reduced hours. If we reduce some of the days to only have the mornings open, then we're disenfranchising the school kids that would go there in the afternoon. If we close it in the mornings on some of those days, we're disenfranchising the families with small children that like to go there for story time or other activities in the morning. I just think libraries are a service that councils need to be providing for the community. We're not necessarily going to be ever making money out of them, but I think to reduce the hours, I think is a backward step. Totally understand why we needed to do that pre-COVID, during COVID, but I think now we're sort of coming out of that. It would be great if council could focus a bit more on the branch libraries and maybe revitalise them a bit. Perhaps they've been, I don't like to use the word neglected, but I have to use that because I can't think of another word that's more appropriate. But I think we need to revitalise them. They might not attract hordes of people, but they provide a really beneficial service to those that use it. And to reduce the hours, I understand. I don't want to be hard on council officers for putting this before us, but I just think I've had a lot of feedback from a lot of people over the period. It's a different council now than when we actually discussed it in 2020, and the councillors that I've spoken with are more of a mind to maintain the hours at the branch libraries and perhaps reinvest in it. I still, again, haven't had anybody apart from discussing it within this building, highlight the need for a new library in the western part of the LGA. I don't doubt that it would be a great thing, but we don't have a few $1 million to do that. So perhaps it would make more sense to look at trying to find money in the budget to revitalise Penshurst. As Ms McDougall said, it's in a good location. It doesn't need to be turned into something on the scale of Hurstville or Cogra, but I think it lends itself. Long thought that it would make more sense to me than to be holding out for development funds to build some multi-million-dollar library in Mortvale or somewhere like that. But anyway, I would just like to defer it to the full council. I think that it would be a better outcome than if we just resolve to support the harmonised hours tonight. I'll leave it at that.
Anyone wants to speak?
Yeah, I'd like to say something about it too. I also feel like we need to actually look at, you know, our local libraries instead of, they haven't had any enhancement for a long time. You can see that when you just visit these small little libraries, they need revitalisation. And, you know, maybe we can do something like from our bigger libraries on a smaller scale in our little local libraries to get more people into those little community libraries. There's such a necessity, as we've heard from our speakers tonight, to, you know, keep these little local libraries operating. And if we don't invest in them, we're basically giving them a death by neglect, which we don't want our community. Our community needs these little local libraries to keep them together. We've got a lot more development around our areas. People are living in units. As the families start to grow, they kind of need to branch out. And as we've said, as Karina said, you know, people need to get out from the home and go somewhere else and you know, study and use the facilities that are there in the library. So that's my take on it. So thank you.
Does anyone?
I'd like to speak against it, Madam Chair. I appreciate the speakers that have come forward today to address us on this critical issue that's obviously very important to them and to the people that they speak with. This has been an ongoing issue, and some councillors would be familiar from the last term the challenges that we faced as a council in terms of the blowing costs that council was facing. Now, library is a critical factor for our community, and there's no doubt that having those facilities have been immense, provided an immense contribution to members of our community. However, from what we can see from people that attend those libraries is that what the council officers are suggesting is actually very much in line with the type of influx that you have at those libraries, and therefore this is not closing down libraries. This is merely a reduction to suit the hours by which they're being used, and that is clearly shown that these libraries are being used predominantly in the morning. I think that that's a good indicator that I think we need to keep these libraries open for those communities, whether it be children reading, children's groups, mothers groups that love to go there and introduce their kids to books and engagement. It's some of the points that were made by some of the speakers, in terms of these being a safe place for students to attend after school. Well, some of the statistics that we've seen is there's one person attending per hour at some of those libraries. So, in terms of the cost benefit scenario, I don't see how it's justification to see these libraries continue on operating in those later hours. I think what we need to do is we need to focus our resources in such a way that we have the libraries being manned, looked at, protected for our community, so they're not closing down as what would be somewhat implied by some people. These libraries are remaining open, and they're remaining open for the critical times that are available, that are being used by our community. And more so than that, in terms of the motion that we recently moved in a full council meeting, council officers have already been tasked with the importance of finding a a suitable place for a district library moving forward. Now, that is something that I think would far more benefit the community than some of these smaller satellite libraries. And I think that's where you're going to really actually find people utilise such a library in the future, given its close proximity to public transport and access, and it'd be convenient for school-aged children, whether they be primary school or high school. So, Madam Chair, whilst I appreciate that some councillors would like to defer this to the council meeting, all I'm suggesting is that I think it's important that we deal with this here. I think the same points are going to be articulated. I can see the case that councillors would like to present, that we should be keeping longer trading hours, but I simply say that the numbers don't stack up for that. And we only recently, in the last couple of years, in the last year or so, made a commitment to our community that we will find savings, because we have severe cost blowouts at this council. We need to be very mindful of the increases in costs that this council is facing. I'm not saying that this solves the problem, but this is a small piece of the jigsaw that contributes to that overall problem. And I think we've got to be extremely mindful of that, given that we are custodians of the ratepayers' money, and they are making sure that they want to make sure that we are making interest in the best interest of our ratepayers moving forward. So respectfully, I'm going to vote against this motion to be deferred, and I'd like to foreshadow that the recommendation by council officers be put forward should the deferred motion not proceed.
Thank you, Councillor Mayor. So any other councillors, any
Mover in reply.
in for against? No?
Can I
If not,
speak as a mover in reply?
okay, so then I call for a vote from.
No, Catherine's got
Okay.
the right to reply.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, sure.
So no one else wants to?
No.
Thanks, Sam. What I will say is that I think that it's incumbent upon us as councillors to provide services to our community that are reasonable. And I don't think reinstating the pre-COVID library hours is unreasonable. I would also like to remind councillors that we are heading for a bit of a surplus in our budget. Yes, we've made lots of cuts, and we were in a pretty dire situation a couple of years ago, perhaps, when this came to us originally. But at this point in time, to reinstate the library hours that were pre-COVID, I think would be the right thing to do. It will also really be in alignment with what other councils are doing. I have absolutely no problem with the hours that are proposed for the district libraries. I think that they are in main centres, being Hurstville and Kogarah, they're easy to get to. But I share a couple of anecdotes that have been provided to me. That South Hurstville Library, for example, Blakehurst High School kids use that quite a lot. Well, they're not going to be able to do that on Mondays, Tuesdays and Fridays. And a lot of elderly people tend to like to get out of their house and maybe go and sit and read the newspaper in the library that's local to them. They're not of a mind to catch a bus to Kogarah or to Hurstville or a train or whatever. They like to go somewhere local. These libraries were located in the locations that they were quite some time ago, and I don't know exactly when they were built. That's bad for me, but I don't. I know they've been there for as long as I can remember.
Before our time.
Before our time, possibly even before I was born, but maybe not, when the world was black and white. But I think they've been there for a long time. They've serviced the community for a really long time, but the branch libraries in particular have never actually attracted that refurbishment that the two major district libraries have, because they're kind of like their poor relations that service a smaller section of the community, albeit not less important. I think, you know, if you have a little kid that goes for a nap at 11 a.m, you're going to want to go to story time at 10. And these are the sorts of activities I'd really like to see us promoting in the local library, so people can actually throw their kids in their double stroller and walk up the road rather than load up the car and go to Hurstville or Kogarah, because it doesn't suit everyone. It does suit some people, but it doesn't suit everyone. Not everyone drives. When my kids were little, I didn't drive at one stage, and I was uphill and down with my double pram. And it wasn't living around here, actually. I was living in Leichhardt, and I was doing that. I was walking to the library because it was convenient for me to do it. I think that I understand we're probably not going to get this through tonight. I think that it may end up being, unfortunately, the recommendation that Councillor Amir has foreshadowed. But I feel really strongly about it. I think we've heard from Ms McDougall tonight and two other people that I really think that the community do care about this. Reducing the hours might not seem so bad on the surface, but when you think about it, you are disenfranchising a whole group of people. And I do believe that if you actually, you know, that thing from Field of Dreams, build it and they will come. If we do actually invest a little bit more resources and equipment, perhaps even in the branch libraries, and view them a bit more favourably, perhaps we've had budget constraints. I get that, so this is not a criticism. But if things are actually going to be on the turn a bit, I would like to see us revitalise these smaller branch libraries to service the immediate community, which means less traffic on the road if people can walk there, and they serve a purpose. So I, for one, would like to defer it to hear from the rest of the other councillors. Yeah, I'll leave it there.
Thank you. Yeah, so now I call for a vote from each councillors. So
I move,
we
Madam Chair, that we probably need to do a vote by ballot, by show of hands.
okay, we going back to the original one, right?
No, this is on
Oh,
the amendment,
for the
so
amendment.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
I'll
So
call it if you like. Would you like me
Okay.
to call it?
Yeah.
Madam Chair,
Me for the amendment against.
for the amendment,
Against.
against the amendment. Councillor Amber Haperha,
for the amendment.
Councillor Elmere,
Against.
Councillor Konjarski,
Against.
Councillor Lansbury,
For.
Councillor Mort,
For.
Councillor Smerdley,
Against.
Councillor Stratokopoulos,
Against.
Councillor Wang. 5 against, 4 for.
Yeah, so the motion lost. They're going back to the original motion.
I move that the recommendation be adopted, Madam Chair.
Yeah.
Second that,
Can I have a
Madam
second
Chair.
now? Yeah. So,
Go around again,
yeah, we're going around again for a vote from each councillor. So
starting with you.
me for the original motions. And councillor Mbihapa,
Against.
councillor Elmire,
For.
councillor Konjarski,
For.
councillor Lansbury,
Against.
councillor Moore,
Against.
councillor Smedley,
For.
councillor Stratokopoulos,
For.
and councillor Wang.
Against. 5, 4 against.
So the motion got
Happy.
carried.
Yeah.
Now we're going to the second item tonight's report. It's the COM 046, that's 22, interactions with children and young people policy. Can
I
our,
can, talk to
Yes,
us
lovely.
quickly. So,
please.
as you're all aware, councillors, we've got our Child Protection Action Plan to make council a child safe organisation. One of the actions on that was to develop an interactions with children and young people policy so that we are compliant with the 10 national principles for child safe standards. So this report has the policy attached and councillors are all under this reportable scheme. So it's bringing it here for you to endorse. Does anyone have any questions on the report?
No, I'm happy to do that.
Happy to second.
Moved by councillor.
No, it's the wrong motion. Sure.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's okay, I can call the vote for this one. So, or we can go around. Okay, councillor Lou,
For.
councillor Amber Haperha,
For.
already seconded. Councillor Konjarski,
For.
councillor Mort, councillor Smerdley, councillor Stratokopoulos, and councillor Wang. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. There are no more items for tonight's meeting. No other business on the agenda. I declare this meeting closed at 7:02. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's start.